highlighting history of suburban Sydney with the St Peter's Cooks River History Group.
Our aim is to preserve and promote local history.
We are based at St Peter's in Sydney's inner west.
Cooks River, named after the British navigator and cartographer James Cook, flows for 23 kilometres through south-eastern Sydney. 250 years ago, Cook's visit to our shores was one of the most significant events in Australian history. Leaving England in 1768, the Endeavour, a 32-metre-long converted collier, set sail with 94 people on board, which included botanists Joseph Banks and Carl Solander, and artist Sidney Parkinson. On the 19th of April 1770, the east coast of Australia, then known as New Holland, was sighted.
The easternmost land we had in sight. I named it Point Hicks because Lieutenant Hicks was the first who discovered this land.
Continuing north, looking for a suitable harbour, Cook mapped and noted landforms. Names he gave them are still in use today. Cape Howe, near the New South Wales-Victorian border. Mount Dromedary and Cape Dromedary.
We were abreast of a pretty high mountain lying near the shore, which, on account of its figure, I named Mount Dromedary. The shore under the foot of this mountain forms a point which I have named Cape Dromedary.
At the northern end of Durras Beach,
a point of land which, on account of its perpendicular cliffs, I called Point Upright.
Inland from Ulladulla,
a remarkable peaked hill lying inland, the top of which looked like a pigeon house, and occasioned my giving it that name.
Near Jarvis Bay, the ruins of an old lighthouse can be seen at
a point of land named Cape St George, we having discovered it on that saint's day.
On the 29th of April, the Endeavour entered a bay. A monument at Kurnell indicates their landing place. The area was explored, water collected and fish caught. The botanists, Banks and Solander, collected new species of plants.
In the evening the yawl returned from fishing, having caught 2 stingrays weighing 600 pounds.
The bay was initially called Stingray Harbour, but was changed because of
the great quantity of new plants Mr. Banks and Dr. Solander collected in this place occasioned my giving it the name of Botany Bay.
On one of his exploratory trips around the bay, Cook found a very fine stream of water on the northern shore of the bay, today's Cook's River. During their stay,
Forby Sutherland, seaman, departed this life in the AM. His body was buried ashore at the watering place, which occasioned my calling the south point of this bay after his name.
After leaving Botany Bay on the 6th of May, 9 miles north, there was a
bay or harbour wherein there appeared to be safe anchorage, which I called Port Jackson,
today Sydney Harbour. Further north,
some broken land that appeared to form a bay. This bay I named Broken Bay.
Barrenjoey Lighthouse stands at the entrance of this bay.
An inlet which I called Port Stephens appeared to me from the masthead to be sheltered from all winds.
East of Foster,
a high point of land made in 2 hillocks I called Cape Hawke. 3 remarkable large hills lying contiguous to each other and not far from the shore bore some resemblance to each other. We called them the 3 Brothers.
Near Southwest Rocks,
a point or headland on which were fires that caused a great quantity of smoke, occasioned my giving it the name of Smoky Cape.
On May the 15th, the most easterly point of the continent.
A tolerable high point of land. This point I named Cape Byron.
The following day,
I have named Mount Warning. The land is high and hilly about it, but it is conspicuous enough to be distinguished from everything else. The point off which shoals lay I have named Point Danger.
Today the border of New South Wales and Queensland, and location of the Cook Memorial Lighthouse.
Morton being the north point of the bay of the same name. From Cape Morton the land trends away west further than we could see. There is a small space where we could see no land. Some on board were of the opinion that there is a river there because the sea looked paler than usual.
The suspected river was the Brisbane River.
This place may always be found by 3 hills, which lay but a little way inland and not far from each other. They are very remarkable on account of their singular form of elevation, which very much resemble glass houses, which occasioned my giving them that name.
On Fraser Island,
A black bluff head or point of land on which a number of the natives were assembled occasioned my naming it Indian Head. I have named Sandy Cape on account of 2 very large white patches of sand upon it.
going ashore at a small harbour with a freshwater stream, a large bustard was shot. Cook named the place Bustard Bay.
I named Cape Manifold from the number of hills over it. Between them the shore forms a large bay which I called Keppel Bay, and the islands which lay in and off it are known by the same name. Good anchorage where there is a sufficient depth of water.
Between Rockhampton and Mackay,
This point I have named Cape Palmerston. Between this cape and Cape Townsend lies the Bay of Inlets. A lofty promontory I named Cape Gloucester. There are islands laying between it and Whitsunday's Passage, which I have named as it was discovered on the day the church commemorates that festival. The isles of which form it, Cumberland Isles, in honour of His Royal Highness the Duke of Cumberland.
Townsville stands on
Cleveland Bay, which appeared to be about 5 or 6 miles in extent every way. The east point I named Cape Cleveland, and the west Magnetic Head or Island, as it had much the appearance of an island, and the compass did not travel well near it.
on Hinchinbrook Island,
Cape Sandwich in honour of the Earl of that name. Between Point Hillock and Iron Head, the shore forms a large bay which I named Rockingham Bay. The boundary of the bay is formed by a tolerable high island known in the chart by the name of Dunk Island.
at Cairns,
The point of land we were now abreast of I called Cape Grafton, a large but not very deep bay. I named Trinity Bay, after the day on which it was discovered. Cape Tribulation here begun all our troubles.
on the 11th of June, the ship struck a reef.
The ship being quite fast upon, we went to work to lighten her as fast as possible, which seemed to be the only means we had left to get her off. We threw overboard our guns, iron and stone ballast, casks, hoops, staves, oil jars, decayed stores. All this time the ship made little or no water. At 11 o'clock in the AM, being high water as we thought, we tried to heave her off without success. She had not being afloat by a foot or more. By this time we had thrown overboard 40 or 50 ton weight. As this was not found sufficient, we continued to lighten her by every method we could think of. The ship began to make water as much as 2 pumps could free. Some hands employed sewing occam and chopped wool into a sail to fother the ship. Others employed at the pumps, which still gained upon the leak.
The sail and mixture of occam and fine chopped wool plugged the hole sufficiently to keep the water at bay. A place was found to repair the ship.
The harbour or river I found was very narrow and much smaller than I had been told, but very convenient for our purpose. I named it after the ship, Endeavour River.
Today, Cooktown is situated there. It was found that
A large piece of coral rock was sticking in one hole, and several pieces of the fothering, small stones, sand, etc., had made its way in and lodged between the timbers, which had stopped the water from forcing its way in great quantities.
On the 6th of August, the Endeavour was at sea again, Cook hoping to find a passage to Batavia for further repairs to the ship and new provisions. On the 12th of August,
I went upon the highest hill on the island, where, to my mortification, I discovered a reef of rocks extending further than I could see, on which the sea broke very high. This, however, gave me great hopes that they were the outermost shoals. There appeared to be several breaks in the reef and deep water between it and the islands. The only land animals we saw here were lizards, and occasioned my naming it Lizard Island.
finding an opening in the reef, Cook threaded his way through and found a long peninsula in a channel, which convinced him he had come to the northern tip of the continent.
We found the northern promontory of this country. I have named it York Cape in honour of His late Royal Highness the Duke of York. We had at last found a passage into the Indian Seas. I landed with a party of men accompanied by Mr. Banks and Dr. Solander upon the island. We approached the shore. People we expected would have opposed our landing made off and left us in peaceable possession of as much of the island as served our purpose. I am confident this place was never seen nor visited by any European before us. I hoisted English colours, and in the name of His Majesty King George III took possession of the whole eastern coast by the name of New South Wales.
The island was named Possession Island. On the way to Batavia,
A small island, Mr. Banks and I landed upon it and found it mostly a barren rock frequented by birds such as boobies, which occasioned my giving it the name Booby Island.
Booby Island is now the landmark for ships heading for Torres Strait from the westward. Cook's exploration of the east coast and Joseph Banks' recommendation of the area led to British settlement 18 years later. The locations mentioned in this video are only a few of the many named by Cook in 1770. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel. It's free. And check out our website, stpeterscooksriverhistory.wordpress.com.